Now, speaking of healthcare, nursing homes, what really happened in the beginning days of COVID-19 with the nursing homes, and who made the decision to put COVID patients in amongst the most vulnerable of our society? And what percentage of the COVID deaths were among those vulnerable people?
Well, it was the governor's decision. She was in with 4 other states that said that they were going to require nursing homes to take COVID-infected patients if they had a census under 80. They had to have a dedicated unit. If they had a census over 80, they had to send the patients to a hub, which was just a nursing home that had a dedicated unit. And there was no filtration systems in these facilities to be able to handle COVID-infected patients. So if you had a hip operation, they'd send you to a hub or a dedicated unit that was COVID patients. These are your most vulnerable. They never should have been placed in there. We had field hospitals that had the filtration units. The Fed spent millions and millions of dollars to prepare these. They weren't utilized. It was about as bad a policy as you can imagine for these seniors. Tremendous numbers of deaths. This is what was done in New York. They lied about the figures from this recent audit. It appears that the government in Michigan started counting the numbers as, let's put a hold on this. So everybody's been trying to get these numbers. Charlie LaDuff, Pulitzer Prize winning writer, has had to FOIA this information. They have done everything possible to not provide the information. Well, we just got the recent Auditor General's report, and they underreported 2,386 COVID-related deaths that occurred in these facilities. And Hertel, the director of DHHS, comes out, try to in advance attacks the report. All the data it's the accurate data that the state wouldn't provide is now provided, and she's trying everything. She said, "Well, it's not good accurate data. Well, it's the same data that they use for direct contact tracing and for monitoring communicative diseases." So the Auditor General has no dog in the fight. They said, "This is what happened. You unreported about 30% of the deaths, and now the governor and DHHS is in full spin control, and we think that the Auditor General didn't do the report properly." Suddenly, they're looking at numbers that for almost 2 years they said they couldn't find, and nobody has them. Oh my goodness, we just don't know what happened here. Oh no, we know what happened. It was a terrible policy. I believe it resulted in many hundreds, if not thousands, of deaths. It did not have to occur, because it made no sense. I was talking about this from the beginning. You cannot take COVID-infected nursing home patients or patients from a hospital, put them into a nursing home with COVID infected. So you're putting the uninfected with the infected and not come out with a terrible result. Well, we got a terrible result.
Where do you think, Senator, the governor got her advice and counsel on something like that? Because I don't know that any of us would know what to do in that situation, right? It was unprecedented.
Well, there was advice on behalf of the feds to do that, but there's 50 states, and 45 said that's insane. Whereas on the face of it, it's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. 5 states said, "Oh, that sounds good." And these 5 states have been under duress ever since making the decision. Sometimes, some bureaucrat in Washington saying, "Hey, this is a good idea." You have to use your own discernment and judgment and say, "Does it make sense?" Well, 45 states said, "No, it makes no sense," and didn't have near the problems that these other states have had.
The federal government. I wonder. So at the time, the Trump administration was in place, correct? Where would that advice and counsel have come from?
I can't recall the direct department, but that's been the claim that the governor has made, is that they got advice from the federal level. I can't remember which department it was, but it's certainly not something they had to do, obviously, because the vast majority of states did not do it. So.
Jim Runestad, state senator. I wish we had been one of them. Republican from White Lake. we'll stay in touch. It's Michael Patrick Shiels.